Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we will go through SC-900 practice questions covering Microsoft security, compliance and identity fundamentals. These questions are designed to help you prepare for the exam and strengthen your understanding of important SC-900 concepts. I recommend pausing the video for each question, selecting your answer first and then reviewing the explanation carefully. If you find this video helpful, please like, subscribe and share it with others preparing for the SC-900 exam. Now let's begin with the practice questions. SC-900 Microsoft Security, Compliance and Identity Fundamentals. So this is part 1 of the SC-900 exam questions and answers. So let's get started. Question number 1 is blank space is used to identify, hold and export electronic information that might be used in an investigation. So what is the correct option? And the options are option A, customer logbox, option B, data loss prevention, DLP, option C, e-discovery and option D, resource log. And the correct option is option C, e-discovery. So e-discovery is used to identify, hold and export electronic information that might be used in an investigation. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Purview e-discovery is used to identify electronic information, place legal holds on data and search and export content for investigation or legal cases. It is commonly used for compliance, legal investigations and audits. So why the other options are incorrect? Customer logbox controls Microsoft support access to customer data. Data loss prevention or DLP tool prevents sensitive data from being shared improperly or data being exfiltrated outside the organization. Resource log prevents accidental deletion or modification of Azure resources. Question number 2, conditional access policies always enforce the use of multi-factor authentication, that is MFA. And the options are option A, whether this statement is correct, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, no. So conditional access does not always enforce the use of multi-factor authentication or MFA. And the explanation is, so conditional access policies in Microsoft Azure do not always enforce MFA. They enforce access controls only when specified conditions are met, such as these conditions include user location, device compliance, risk level, and application being accessed. So multi-factor authentication can be one requirement within the policies, but it is not automatically enforced for every login. So the MFA may be enforced, for example, when the user logs in from a new location. So let's suppose a user usually logs in from a known location X, and then one fine morning same user logs in from another country or another location Y. So in this case, the MFA may be enforced. Similarly, these other conditions may also be specified in the policies. Question number 3, conditional access policies can be used to block access to an application based on the location of the user. And the options are again yes and no. And the correct option is yes. So as we said in the previous question, we can define that if a user logs in from a new location or from a geographically very far location from his or her usual location, then the conditional policy can block the access to application. So conditional access policies in Microsoft Azure can block or allow access based on conditions such as user location, that is country or IP range, device state, user risk and application access. So for example, an organization can block access to an application from outside a specific country or from unknown locations. Question number 4, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint can protect Android devices. And the options are again option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. So Microsoft Defender for Endpoint can protect Android devices. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint supports protection for multiple platforms including Windows, macOS, Linux, Android, and iOS. So on Android devices, it provides features such as malware protection, web protection, and threat detection. Question number 5, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint can protect Microsoft SharePoint online sites and content from viruses. Again, the options are yes and no, and the correct option is no. So Microsoft Defender for Endpoint cannot protect Microsoft SharePoint online sites and content from viruses. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is designed to protect devices or the endpoints such as PCs, servers, and mobile devices, not cloud content services like SharePoint Online. Protection for Microsoft SharePoint Online sites and files is handled by services like Microsoft Defender for Office 365, which protects SharePoint Online, OneDrive, and Exchange from malware and phishing. So SharePoint Online protection is not the responsibility of Defender for Endpoint. Question number 6, what feature in Microsoft Defender for Endpoint provides the first line of defense against cyber threats by reducing the attacked surface? And the options are option A, automated remediation, option B, automated investigation, option C, advanced hunting, and option D, network protection. And the correct option is option D, network protection, and the explanation is, so Microsoft Defender for Endpoint uses network protection as part of its attack surface reduction, that is ASR capabilities. It acts as a first line of defense by blocking access to malicious domains, URLs, and IP addresses before a connection is established. This helps reduce the attack surface by preventing devices from communicating with known harmful sources. So why the other options are incorrect? Automated remediation fixes threats after detection. Automated investigation investigates and responds to alerts automatically. And advanced hunting is used for querying and searching threat data, not prevention. Question number 7, which score measures an organization's progress in completing actions that help reduce risks associated to data protection and regulatory standards? And the options are option A, Microsoft Secure Score, option B, Productivity Score, option C, Secure Score in Microsoft Defender for Cloud, and option D, Compliance Score. And the correct option is option D, Compliance Score. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Compliance Score, which is part of Microsoft Purview, measures an organization's progress in meeting regulatory requirements and implementing controls related to data protection, compliance standards, for example, ISO, GDPR, and risk reduction actions. It provides a percentage-based score showing how well an organization is aligned with compliance requirements. So why the other options are incorrect? So Microsoft Secure Score measures security posture improvement in Microsoft 365. Productivity scores measures how effectively users adopt Microsoft 365 tools. And Secure Score in Microsoft Defender for Cloud focuses on Azure's resource security posture, not regulatory compliance. Question number 8, you can add a resource log to an Azure subscription. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is Option B, yes. So you can add a resource lock to an Azure subscription. So in Microsoft Azure, you can apply resource locks at different level. For example, at subscription level, resource group, and individual resource level. A resource lock helps prevent accidental changes or deletion. There are two types of resource locks. Number one is read only, which prevents any modification, and next one is the delete, which prevents deletion only. Question number 9, you can add only one resource log to an Azure resource. So whether this statement is correct, option A yes, or it is incorrect, option B no. And the correct option is no. So this statement is incorrect. You cannot add only one resource log to an Azure resource. So in Microsoft Azure, you are not limited to only one resource log per resource. You can apply multiple logs such as read-only log and a deletion or cannot delete log. So however, logs are hierarchical and inherited, and their combined effect can restrict operation depending on the most restrictive log applied. Question number 10, you can delete a resource group containing resources that have resource locks. Again, the options are option A yes and option B no, and the correct option is option B no. So you cannot delete a resource group containing resources that have resource locks. So in Microsoft Azure, you cannot delete a resource group if any resource inside it has a resource lock applied. So resource locks, which are of two types as we already studied, number one is read only and the second is delete or the cannot delete, prevent deletion or modification, and they must be removed first before the resource group can be deleted. Question number 11, Azure Defender can detect vulnerabilities and threats for Azure storage. Option A yes and option B no, and the correct option is option A yes. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Azure Defender, now part of the Microsoft Defender for Cloud, can detect vulnerabilities and threats for services like Azure Storage. It provides threat detection for suspicious access or exfiltration, malware scanning in storage blobs, and alerts for unusual activity patterns. So it helps secure Azure storage against potential threats and misconfigurations. Question number 12, Cloud Security Posture Management, that is CSPM, is available for all Azure subscriptions. And the options are again option A yes and option B no, and the correct option is yes. So yes, Cloud Security Posture Management or CSPM is available for all Azure subscriptions. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Azure, Cloud Security Posture Management or CSPM is a core capability of Microsoft Defender for Cloud. CSPM is enabled by default for all Azure subscriptions and provides continuous security assessment, recommendations to improve security posture, and compliance tracking against standards. So it is available without needing extra configuration for basic functionality, though advanced features may require Defender plans. Question number 13, Microsoft Defender for Cloud can evaluate the security of workloads deployed to Azure or on premises. Again, the options are option A yes and option B no, and the correct option is option A yes. So yes, Microsoft Defender for Cloud can evaluate the security of workloads deployed to Azure or on premises. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Defender for Cloud can assess and monitor the security posture of workloads in Microsoft Azure resources, on-premises servers, and multi-cloud environments, for example, AWS and GCP, Google Cloud Platform. It provides security recommendation, vulnerability assessments, and threat protection across hybrid environments, not just Azure. Question number 13. In the shared responsibility model for an Azure deployment, what is the Microsoft solely responsible for managing? So shared responsibility model means that in cloud, we have responsibility divided between the customer and the cloud provider. So what is the solely or the for which aspect is the Microsoft or the cloud provider solely responsible? And the options are: option A, the management of mobile devices; option B, the permissions for the user data stored in Azure; option C, the creation and management of user accounts; and option D, the management of the physical hardware. And the correct option is option D, the management of the physical hardware. And the physical deployment, physical configuration, and physical management of hardware, as well as the physical security of all these hardware infrastructure, is the primary responsibility of the cloud service provider, in this case Microsoft. So in the shared responsibility model of Microsoft Azure, Microsoft is solely responsible for the underlying infrastructure, including physical servers, storage devices, networking hardware, and data center facilities. Customers are responsible for identity, data, access control, and device management depending on the service model. So we have three service model: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So in each these model, the responsibilities are divided differently between the cloud provider and the customer. So why the other options are incorrect? So mobile device management is the customer responsibility, user data permissions is again the customer responsibility, and user account creation is the customer responsibility via Microsoft Azure or Entra ID. Question number 15. Which Microsoft 365 feature can you use to restrict communication and the sharing of information between members of two departments at your organization? And the options are: option A, sensitivity label policies; option B, customer logbox; option C, information barriers; and option D, privileged access management. And the correct option is option C, information barriers. And the explanation is, so Microsoft information barriers, which is part of Microsoft 365 compliance solutions, are used to restrict communication and collaboration between specific groups of users, such as different departments. They can prevent users from searching for or communicating with each other, block chat, email, and team interactions between segments, and support compliance and conflict of interest scenario. So why the other options are incorrect? So sensitivity label policies protect and classify data, and it does not restrict user-to-user communication. Customer logbox control Microsoft support access to data, and privileged access management or PAM controls and monitors privileged admin access. Question number 16. You can use blank space in the Microsoft 365 Security Center to identify devices that are affected by an alert. And the options are: option A, classifications; option B, incidents; option C, policies; and option D, secure score. And the correct option is option B, incidents. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft 365 Security Center, now part of Microsoft Defender portal, incidents group related security alerts together. So you can use incident to view affected devices and users, correlate multiple alerts into a single attack story, and investigate and respond to threats. So why the other options are incorrect? Classification is used for data labeling, not device alert investigation. Policies define security rules, not alert investigation. And secure score measures security posture, not threat investigation. Question number 17. When users sign in to the Microsoft Azure portal, they are first blank space. Option A, assigned permissions. Option B, authenticated. Option C, authorized. And option D, resolved. And the correct option is they are first authentication. So whenever you log into something, for example to your email, when you enter your username and password, that process is known as authentication. So the first process is authentication, and the second is then authorization, where you are given certain permissions to perform certain tasks. So in Microsoft Azure, when users sign in to the Azure portal, the first step is authentication. Authentication verifies who the user is through username, password, or MFA. And after authentication comes authorization, which is to determine what the user is allowed to do. So why the other options are incorrect? Assigned permission happens during authorization, not sign in. Authorized occurs after authentication, so this is the second step. And resolved is not part of the identity process. Question number 18. You plan to implement a security strategy and place multiple layers of defense throughout a network infrastructure. Which security methodology does this represent? So you are talking about multiple layers of defense. So sometimes the questions itself gives out the answers if you carefully study the question and then compare it with the answers, and if you know, of course, the English language. So the options are option A, threat modeling, option B, identity as the security perimeter, option C, defense in depth, and option D, the shared responsibility model. And the correct option is defense in depth. So the correct option is the defense in depth. We are talking about multiple layers of defense. So this type of defense is known as defense in depth. Sometimes it is also known as layered defense. So in this case, in this type of defense, we have multiple layers of control, not just one. So Microsoft Azure Defense in Depth is a security strategy that uses multiple layers of protection across a network or system. Each layer provides independent security controls so that if one layer fails, others layer can still protect the system. So typical layers include physical security, network security, identity and access management, application security, and data protection. So why the others are incorrect? So threat modeling identifies and analyzes potential threats, not just layered defenses. Identity as the security perimeter focuses on identity-based access control, and shared responsibility model defines security roles between Microsoft and customer, not a defense strategy. Question number 19. Compliance manager assesses compliance data blank for an organization. Option A, continually, option B, monthly, option C, on demand, and option D, quarterly. And the correct option is option A, continually. So compliance manager assesses compliance data continually for an organization. So in Microsoft Compliance Manager, which is part of Microsoft Purview, compliance data is assessed continuously. It continuously evaluates compliance postures, updates risk and control scores in real time or near real time, and provides ongoing recommendations to improve compliance. So it is not limited to monthly, quarterly, or on-demand assessments. Question number 20. What should you use in Microsoft 365 Security Center to view security trends and track the protection status of identities? Option A, Attack Simulator. Option B, Reports. Option C, Hunting. And option D, Incidents. And the correct option is option B, Reports. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft 365 Security Center, that is Microsoft Defender Portal, reports are used to view security trends over time, track protection status of identities and devices, and analyze overall security postures and activity summaries. So why the other options are incorrect? Attack Simulator is used to simulate phishing attacks, not trend reporting. Hunting is used for advanced threat hunting queries, and incidents are used for investigating activity security events, not long-term trends. Question number 21. Digitally signing a document requires a private key. So whether this statement is correct or wrong. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is yes. So digitally signing a document do require a private key. So digitally signing uses asymmetric encryption. So the private key is used to create the digital signature, and the public key is used by others to verify the signature. So how does this work? So basically the user, if this is a message, the user takes the hash of the message. We are talking about the digital signature. That hash is thus encrypted with the user private key. So the public key is with everyone. So if this is user A, we have user B. User B can then use the user A public key to decrypt this hash. So if it is decrypted, it means that this message is from user A, because user A has only access to his private key. So this ensures authenticity. So the B is sure that the message has been sent by A. Integrity of the message, so the content was not changed. So the user A sends the hash as well as the original message in plain text. Here the user B then takes the hash of this original message and compares it with the hash that was received from user A, and if both the hash are similar, it means the message was not changed. So this proves the message integrity and non-repudiation, which means that sender cannot deny sending it, because only the sender has access to his or her own private key. Question number 22. Verifying the authenticity of a digitally signed document requires the public key of the signer. Again, the options are option A, yes, and option B, no, and the correct option is yes. So we do need the public key of the sender for the authenticity. So to verify a digitally signed document, the recipient uses the public key of the signer. So the signer creates the signature using their private key, while the receiver or others verify it using the corresponding public key. So this confirms the document was signed by the expected person that has the private key, and the document was not altered after signing. Question number 23. Verifying the authenticity of a digitally signed document requires the private key of the signer. And the options are again option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is no. Why is that? So verifying a digitally signed document requires the public key of the sender, not the private key. So private key is used by the signer to create signature, and the public key is used by others or the receivers to verify the signature. The private key must remain secret with its owner, and it is never shared for verification with others. Question number 24. In the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure, which two phases are addressed before the ready phase? And the options are option A, plan, option B, manage, option C, adopt, option D, govern, and option E, define strategy. And the correct option is option A, plan, and option E, define strategy. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Azure Cloud Adoption Framework, the phases that come before the ready phases are define strategy, which define business motivations and expected outcomes. Number 2, plan, which is used to create the cloud adoption plan and assess digital assets. And number 3, ready, to prepare the cloud environment and landing zones. So why the other options are incorrect? So adopt comes after ready, and govern and manage are ongoing operational phases after adoption begins. Question number 25. What can you use to provide a user with a 2-hour window to complete an administrative task in Azure? Option A, Microsoft Entra ID Privileged Identity Management, that is PIM. Option B, Azure Multi-Factor Authentication, MFA. Option C, Microsoft Entra Identity Protection. And option D, Conditional Access Policies. And the correct option is option A, Microsoft Entra ID Privileged Identity Management. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Entra ID Privileged Identity Management provides just-in-time privileged access. You can grant temporary admin access, set a specific duration such as 2 hours, and require approval or MFA before activation. So this reduces the risk of permanent privileged access. So why the other options are incorrect? Azure MFA verifies identity and does not provide timed admin access. Identity protection detects identity risk and suspicion sign-ins, and conditional access policies control access conditions but do not provide temporary privilege role activation. Question number 26. Applying system updates increases an organization's secure score in Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, yes. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Defender for Cloud, secure score increases when you implement recommended security actions. Applying system updates and patches help fix known vulnerabilities, reduce attack surface, and improve overall security posture. So since patch management is a recommended security control, completing it contributes to improving the organization's secure score. Question number 27. The secure score in Microsoft Defender for Cloud can evaluate resources across multiple Azure subscriptions, and the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. So in Microsoft Defender for Cloud, secure score is calculated at multiple scopes, including individual resource level, subscription level, management group level across multiple subscriptions. This means it can evaluate and aggregate security posture across multiple Azure subscriptions, giving a unified security view for an organization. Question number 28. Enabling multi-factor authorization authentication, that is MFA, increases an organization's secure score in Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Defender for Cloud, secure score improves when recommended security controls are implemented. Enabling multi-factor authentication or MFA strengthens identity security, reduces risk of account compromise, and is a recommended security best practice. Therefore, enabling MFA contributes to increasing the organization's secure score. Question number 29. Blank space enables collaboration with business partners from external organizations such as suppliers, partners, and vendors. External users appear as guests in the directory. Option A, Active Directory Domain Services, that is ADDS. Option B, Active Directory Forest Trust. Option C, Microsoft Entra ID Business to Business, B2B. And option D, Microsoft Entra ID Business to Consumer, or B2C. And the correct option is option C, Microsoft Entra ID Business to Business, or B2B. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Entra ID B2B, business to business, enables secure collaboration with external organizations such as vendors, suppliers, and partners. Key points include external users are added as guest users in the directory. They can access shared applications, resources, and data based on permissions, and supports cross-organization collaboration securely. So why the other options are incorrect? So ADDS, on-premises identity system, not designed for external cloud guest collaboration. So ADDS is on-premises identity system. Forest Trust connects on-prem Active Directory Forest, not external cloud partners, and B2C is designed for customer-facing applications, that is customers, not business partners. Question number 30. Which Microsoft portal provides information about how Microsoft manages privacy, compliance, and security? Option A, Microsoft Service Trust Portal. Option B, Compliance Manager. Option C, Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. And option D, Microsoft Support. And the correct option is option A, Microsoft Service Trust Portal. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Service Trust Portal provides detailed information about how Microsoft manages the security practices, privacy controls, compliance reports and certifications, and audit documentation. It is the main transparency portal for customers to understand Microsoft compliance posture. So why the other options are incorrect? So Microsoft Compliance Manager helps organizations manage their own compliance, not Microsoft's internal controls. Microsoft 365 Compliance Center is a tool for managing compliance inside your tenant, and Microsoft Support is a general technical support, not compliance documentation. Question number 31. What can you use to scan email attachments and forward the attachments to recipients only if the attachments are free from malware? And the options are option A, Microsoft Defender for Office 365. Option B, Microsoft Defender Antivirus. Option C, Microsoft Defender for Identity. And option D, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And the correct option is option A, Microsoft Defender for Office 365. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Defender for Office 365 is designed to protect email and collaboration tools like Exchange Online, SharePoint, and OneDrive. It can scan email attachments for malware, detonate suspicious files in a sandbox to make sure the attachments are safe, and deliver attachments only if they are verified as safe. So why the other options are incorrect? So Microsoft Defender antivirus protects local devices, not email flow. Microsoft Defender for Identity detects identity-based attacks, and Microsoft Defender for Endpoint protects endpoints, not email attachment filtering. Question number 32. What is the purpose of Microsoft Entra ID password protection? And the options are option A, to control how often users must change their passwords. Option B, to identify devices to which users can sign in without using multi-factor authentication MFA. Option C, to decrypt a password by using globally recognized password standards. And option D, to prevent users from using specific words in their passwords. And the correct option is to prevent users from using specific words in their passwords. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Entra ID password protection is used to block weak or commonly used passwords and enforce banned password list. For example, it prevents use of easily guessable passwords, for example, password 123, company name 2026. It blocks leaked or commonly used password and helps improve overall password security. So why the other options are incorrect? So changing password frequency is controlled by password policy, not password protection. Device-based MFA bypass is handled by conditional access, and password encryption is handled by authentication system, not this feature. Question number 33. Network security groups or NSGs can deny inbound traffic from the internet. A very simple question, and the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is, of course, yes. NSG or network security group can deny inbound traffic from the internet. So in Microsoft Azure, network security groups or NSG control inbound and outbound traffic to Azure resources. NSG can allow or deny inbound traffic from the internet. They filter traffic based on IP address, port, and protocol, and apply rules at subnet or network interface level. So they can definitely be used to block unwanted internet traffic. Question number 34. Network security groups and NSG can filter traffic based on IP address, protocol, and ports. Again, a simple question, and the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is again yes. So in Microsoft, NSG network security groups are used to control network traffic by defining security rules, and the rules can filter traffic based on IP address, source and destination IP address, protocol such as TCP, UDP, ICMP, and port numbers such as 80 for protocol HTTP or 443 for HTTPS. So this allows fine-grained control over inbound and outbound network traffic. Question number 35. What is an example of encryption at rest? Option A, encrypting communications by using a site-to-site VPN. Option B, encrypting a virtual machine disk. Option C, accessing a website by using an encrypted HTTPS connection. And option D, sending an encrypted email. And the correct option is Option B, encrypting a virtual machine disk. So by encryption at rest, we means that encrypting data that is at rest or that is stored inside storage and is not actively moving. Such as in site-to-site VPN, the data is moving over the network, so it is not the data at rest or encryption at rest. So encryption at rest means data is encrypted while it is stored on a physical or logical storage medium. So in Microsoft Azure, an example is encrypting a virtual machine disk, Azure disk encryption or storage service encryption. This protects data stored on disk, databases or storage accounts. So why the other options are incorrect? VPN encryption is encryption in transit. HTTPS encryption is again encryption in transit. An encrypted email is encryption in transit and or encryption in transit and or at application level, not storage at rest for infrastructure data. Question number 36. Azure DDoS or distributed denial of service protection standard can be used to protect blank space. Option A, Microsoft Entra ID applications. Option B, Microsoft Entra ID users. Option C, resource groups. And option D, virtual networks. And the correct option is option D, virtual networks. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Azure, Azure DDoS protection standard is designed to protect resources deployed within a virtual network or VNet from distributed denial of service attacks. It helps to detect and mitigate large-scale DDoS attacks, protect public IP resources inside a virtual network, and provide telemetry and attack analysis. So why the other options are incorrect? So Microsoft Entra ID applications and users identify is identity layer, not network-based protection, and resource groups are management container not directly protected by DDoS services. Question number 37. Which three authentication methods can be used by Azure Multi-Factor Authentication MFA? Option A, text message SMS. Option B, Microsoft Authenticator app. Option C, email verification. Option D, phone call. And option E, security question. So we have to choose three options, and the correct options are option A, SMS or text message. Option B, Microsoft Authenticator app. And option D, phone call. So these are the three methods that can be used in Microsoft MFA. So in Microsoft Entra ID MFA, supported verification methods include SMS through one-time code sent to your phone, Microsoft Authenticator app, push notifications or OTP codes, and phone call, which is automated call for verification approval. So why the other options are incorrect? So email verification is not used as primary MFA method in Microsoft MFA, and security question is considered weak and not part of modern MFA methods. Question number 38. Which Microsoft 365 Compliance Center feature can you use to identify all the documents on a Microsoft SharePoint online site that contain a specific keyword? Option A, audit. Option B, compliance manager. Option C, content search. And option D, alerts. And the correct option is option C, content search. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft 365 Compliance Center, content search allows you to search across Microsoft 365 data sources, including SharePoint Online, find documents containing specific keywords or phrases, export or review the results of investigation or compliance purposes. So why the other options are incorrect? So audit tracks user and admin activities, not document content search. Compliance manager helps manage compliance posture, not search files. And alerts are not used for keyword-based document discovery. Question number 39. You can use the insider risk management solution to detect phishing scams. Option A, yes. Option B, no. And the correct option is option B, no. So you cannot use the insider risk management solution to detect phishing scams. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Insider Risk Management, which is part of Microsoft Purview, is designed to detect and manage internal risks such as data theft by employees, policy violations, insider data leaks, and suspicious user behavior inside the organization. It is not designed to detect phishing scams. Phishing detection is handled by solutions like Microsoft Defender for Office 365, which uses anti-phishing and email protection. Question number 40, you can access the insider risk management solution from the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. Option A, yes. Option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. So yes, you can access the insider risk management solution from the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. So in Microsoft 365 Compliance Center, now Microsoft Purview portal, the insider risk management solution is available. It allows organizations to detect and investigate insider threats, monitor risky user behavior, and create policies for data leaks or policy violation. So it is accessed directly from the Microsoft 365 Compliance/Purview portal. Question number 41, you can use the insider risk management solution to detect data leaks by unhappy employees. Option A, yes. Option B, no. And the correct option is yes. So you can use the insider risk management solution to detect data leaks. So in Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management, you can detect and investigate data leaks caused by disgruntled or unhappy employees, often called malicious or high-risk insiders. It helps identify unusual data downloads or exfiltration, policy violations involving sensitive data, and risky user behavior patterns before or after departure. So it is specifically designed to help detect insider-driven data leaks. Question number 42, what are two capabilities of Microsoft Defender for Endpoint? Option A, automated investigation and remediation. Option B, transport encryption. Option C, shadow IT detection. And option D, attack surface reduction. And the correct option is, so we have to choose two capabilities and two options. First one is option A, automated investigation and remediation, and second one is attack surface reduction. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Defender for Endpoint capabilities include automated investigation and remediation and attack surface reduction. It automatically investigates alerts and takes remediation actions, for example, isolating a device, killing processes without manual intervention. It reduces attack surface by enforcing rules that block malicious or risky behaviors. For example, blocking Office macros or preventing USB attacks. Why the other options are incorrect? So transport encryption is handled by protocols like TLS, NOT, and endpoint security capability. And shadow IT detection is managed by Microsoft Defender for cloud applications, not Defender for endpoint. Question number 43, Microsoft Intune can be used to manage Android devices. Option A, yes. Option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Intune, Android devices can be fully managed using mobile devices management, that is MDM capabilities. It allows organizations to enroll and configure Android devices, enforce security policies, PIN, encryption, etc., deploy applications and manage updates, and protect corporate data on mobile devices. So Android device management is a core feature of Intune. Question number 44, Microsoft Intune can be used to provision Azure subscriptions. Option A, yes. Option B, no. And the correct option is no. Microsoft Intune cannot be used to provision Azure subscriptions. So Microsoft Intune is used for device and application management such as enrolling and managing endpoint, including Windows, Android, and iOS, enforcing security and compliance policies, and deploying applications. It is not used to provision or create Azure subscriptions. Subscription provisioning is handled through Microsoft Azure management tools like Azure Portal, billing accounts, or Azure Active Directory or Entra ID governance. Question number 45, Microsoft Intune can be used to manage organization-owned devices and personal devices. So you must know the answer by now from the previous questions, and the options are option A yes, option B no, and the correct option is yes. So Microsoft Intune is in fact used to manage organization-wide devices and personal devices, including Android, Windows, and iOS, etc. So we already studied this explanation in previous question. We will go ahead with the question number 46. Compliance manager tracks only customer managed controls. Option A yes, option B no, and the correct option is no. So compliance manager do not tracks customer managed controls only. Explanation is, so in Microsoft Compliance Manager, which is part of Microsoft Purview, tracking is not limited to only customer managed controls. It tracks customer managed controls, that is actions the organization must implement. Microsoft managed controls, that is controls Microsoft implements in its cloud services. So it provides a combined compliance score based on both helping organizations understand overall compliance posture. Question number 47, Compliance Manager provides predefined templates for creating assessments. Option A yes, option B no, and the correct option is yes. Compliance Manager provides predefined templates for creating assessments. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Compliance Manager, which is again part of the Microsoft Purview, you can use predefined assessment templates. These templates are based on common regulations and standards. For example, GDPR, ISO, and NIST. Help quickly create compliance assessments, provide ready-made controls and implement actions. So organizations do not need to build assessment from scratch. Question number 48. Compliance Manager can help you assess whether data adheres to specific data protection standards. Option A yes, option B no, and the correct option is option A yes. So Compliance Manager can indeed help you assess whether data adheres to specific data protection standards. So in Microsoft Compliance Manager, part of Microsoft Purview, you can assess whether your organization's data and processes comply with specific data protection standards such as GDPR, ISO 27001, NIST, and other regulatory frameworks. It provides compliance scores, assessments, and recommended actions to help meet these standards. Question number 49, which two tasks can you implement by using data loss prevention policies, that is DLP policies in Microsoft 365? And the options are option A, display policy tips to users who are about to violate your organization's policies. Option B, enable disencryption on endpoint. Option C, protect documents in Microsoft OneDrive that contain sensitive information. And option D, apply a security baseline to devices. So we have to choose two options, and the correct options are option A, display policy tips to users who are about to violate your organization's policies, and option C, protect documents in Microsoft OneDrive that contains sensitive information. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft, data loss prevention or DLP policies in Microsoft Purview are used to detect sensitive information such as credit card, IDs, etc., prevent accidental or intentional data leakage, warn or block users from sharing sensitive data. So they can show policy tips in applications like Outlook and Word, protect data in services like OneDrive, SharePoint, and Exchange. And why the other options are incorrect? So enable disencryption on endpoint is done via BitLocker or Intune, not DLP, and apply security baseline to devices is managed through Microsoft Intune security baselines. Question number 50, blank space requires additional verification such as verification code sent to a mobile phone. Option A, multi-factor authentication MFA. Option B, pass-through authentication. Option C, password write-back. And option D, single sign-on SSO. And the correct option is option A, multi-factor authentication MFA. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Entra ID multi-factor authentication MFA requires users to provide additional verification beyond a password, such as a verification code sent to a mobile phone through SMS, a notification code or code from an authenticator app, or a phone call approval. This adds an extra security layer to verify the user's identity. And why the other options are incorrect? So pass-through authentication authenticates users against on-premises systems. Password write-back syncs password changes from cloud to on-premises. And single sign-on SSO allows one login for multiple applications, not extra verification. So that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. This was part 1. I will soon upload part 2 containing further 50 questions. So going through all these questions, I am confident that you will be able to learn the exam objective of SC-900 and confidently pass the exam. And if you want to further learn the concepts from the basics, I have also uploaded complete course of this SC-900 certification, so you can watch that video as well. See you in the next video. Question number 51. With advanced audit in Microsoft 365, you can identify when email items were accessed. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is yes. So yes, with the advanced audit in Microsoft 365, you can identify when emails items were accessed. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Advanced Audit in Microsoft 365 provides enhanced auditing capabilities, including the ability to track when email items were accessed, messages were read or searched, and mailbox activities occurred. So this is useful for investigation, compliance, and forensic analysis. Question number 52. Advanced Audit in Microsoft 365 supports the same retention period of audit logs as core auditing. And again, the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, no. And why is that? So the explanation is, so Microsoft Advanced Audit provides longer audit log retention compared to core auditing. So core auditing is standard and default retention period, while advanced audit gives us extended retention for critical audit events. So this helps organizations meet compliance, investigation, and forensic requirements. Question number 53. Advanced Audit in Microsoft 365 allocates customer dedicated bandwidth for accessing audit data. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, no. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Advanced Audit enhances audit capabilities by providing longer retention periods, more detailed audit events, and faster availability of important audit records. However, it does not allocate customer dedicated bandwidth for accessing audit data. Question number 54. Blank space provides a central location for managing information protection, information governance, and data loss prevention (DLP) policies. And the options are option A, Azure Defender, option B, Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal, option C, the Microsoft 365 Security Center, and option D, Microsoft Endpoint Manager. And the correct option is option B, Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal provides a centralized location to manage information protection, information governance, data loss prevention policies, insider risk management, and compliance assessments. It is the primary portal for Microsoft 365 compliance and data governance tasks. So why the other options are incorrect? So Azure Defender is threat protection for cloud workloads. Microsoft 365 Security Center focuses on security operations and threat management, and Microsoft Endpoint Manager is device and endpoint management platform. Question number 55, which Microsoft 365 compliance feature can you use to encrypt content automatically based on specific conditions? Option A, content search, option B, sensitivity labels, option C, retention policies, and option D, e-discovery. And the correct option is option B, sensitivity labels. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Purview information protection sensitivity labels can automatically apply protection actions such as encryption, access restrictions, and visual markings, that is watermarks and headers. This can be configured to apply automatically when specific conditions are detected, such as sensitive information types. So why the other options are incorrect? So content search searches for content and does not encrypt it. Retention policies control data retention and deletion, while e-discovery is used for investigations and legal searches. Question number 56, in Azure Sentinel, you can automate common tasks by using blank space. Option A, deep investigation tools, option B, hunting, search and query tools, option C, playbooks, and option D, workbooks. And the correct option is option C, playbooks. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Azure Microsoft Sentinel, playbooks are used to automate common security response tasks. So they are based on Azure Logic apps and can automatically respond to incidents, send alerts or notifications, isolate compromised system, and enrich security data during investigation. And why the other options are incorrect? So deep investigation tools are used for manual investigation, not automation. Hunting, search, and query tools are used for threat hunting, not automation, and workbooks are used for visualization and reporting dashboards. Question number 57, all Microsoft Entra ID license editions include the same features. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, no. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Entra ID has different license editions such as free, P1 and P2, and they do not all include the same features. So free edition gives us basic identity and access management. P1 includes features like conditional access and group-based access, and P2 includes advanced features like identity protection and privileged identity management. So features vary depending on the license tier. Question number 58, you can manage a Microsoft Entra ID tenant by using the Azure portal. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is yes. So you can manage a Microsoft Entra ID tenant by using the Azure portal. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Entra ID tenants can be fully managed through the Azure portal. From the Azure portal, you can manage users and groups, configure authentication methods, set up conditional access policies, and manage roles and security settings. So the Azure portal is one of the primary interfaces for managing a Microsoft Entra ID tenant. Question number 59. You must deploy Azure virtual machines to host a Microsoft Entra ID tenant. Again, the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, no. So Microsoft Entra ID is a cloud-based identity service provided by the Microsoft Azure, and it does not require any virtual machine to be deployed. Microsoft hosts and manages the infrastructure for Entra ID. Customers simply create and configure a tenant. No VM deployment is involved. So you can say that this is a type of cloud deployment that we call as SaaS, or software as a service. You do not need any VM deployment or any operating system deployment. You have a ready to use application or service in the form of SaaS that you can use. Question number 60. Microsoft Entra ID is blank space used for authentication and authorization. Option A, an extended detection and response system, that is XDR system. Option B, an identity provider. Option C, a management group. And option D, a security information and event management system, that is SIEM. And the correct option is option B, an identity provider. So Microsoft Entra ID is an identity provider, and it is used for authentication, that is verifying the user identity, and authorization, that is controlling access to resources. It manages user identities and access to Microsoft cloud services and third-party applications. So why the other options are incorrect? So XDR system is Microsoft Defender XDR, not Entra ID. Management group is Azure Resource Organization feature, and SIEM system is Microsoft Sentinel. Question number 61. Blank space can be used to provide Microsoft support engineers with access to an organization's data stored in Microsoft Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, and OneDrive for Business. And the options are option A, customer logbox, option B, information barriers, option C, privileged access management, and option D, sensitivity label. And the correct option is option A, customer logbox. And the explanation is, so Microsoft customer logbox is used to control and approve access requests from Microsoft support engineers to customer data in services like Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, and OneDrive for Business. It ensures that no Microsoft engineer can access data without explicit customer approval, adding an extra layer of data protection. And why the other options are incorrect? Information barriers restrict communication between users and groups. Privileged access management, that is spam, controls admin access within the organization. And sensitivity labels classify and protect data, not Microsoft support access. Question number 62. What do you use to provide real-time integration between Azure Sentinel and another security source? Option A, Microsoft Entra Connect. Option B, Log Analytics Workspace. Option C, Azure Information Protection. And option D, Data Connector. And the correct option is option D, Data Connector. So in Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Sentinel, a data connector is used to provide real-time or near real-time integration with external security sources such as firewalls, Microsoft security products, third-party SIEM or SOAR tools, and SaaS applications. It enables ingestion of logs and alerts into Sentinel for monitoring, detection, and response. So why the other options are incorrect? So Microsoft Entra Connect syncs on-prem Active Directory with Entra ID, not security sources. Log Analytics Workspace is storage and query layer, not the integration mechanism. An Azure information protection is data classification and protection tool, not integration. So data connectors are the correct way to bring external security data into Sentinel. Question number 63. You can create custom roles in Microsoft Entra ID. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, yes. So you can create custom roles in Microsoft Entra ID. Microsoft Entra ID supports custom roles in addition to built-in roles. Custom roles allows you to define specific permissions tailored to organization needs, follow the principle of least privilege, and assign only required administrative capabilities. So administrators can create and assign custom roles when built-in roles are not sufficient. Question number 64. Global Administrator is a role in Microsoft Entra ID. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And correct option is the yes. So Global Administrator is indeed a role in Microsoft Entra ID. So Microsoft Entra ID includes the Global Administrator as a built-in directory role. This is the highest privilege role and allows full access to all administrative features, management of users, groups, and roles, and control over tenant-wide settings and security configuration. So Global Administrator is indeed a valid Microsoft Entra ID role, and it must be used with great care and only when needed. Question number 65. A Microsoft Entra ID user can be assigned only one role. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is no. So Microsoft Entra ID user can be assigned more than one roles. So in Microsoft Entra ID, a user can be assigned multiple roles at the same time. For example, a user can simultaneously have a global reader role, security administrator role, and a help desk administrator role. Each role grants different permissions, and multiple roles can be combined to provide the required access. Question number 66. Microsoft Entra ID protection can add users to groups based on the user's risk level. Again, the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, no. So Microsoft Entra ID identity protection is used to detect and respond to risky sign-ins and user risk level, for example, leaked credential and unusual behavior. It can detect risky users and sign-ins, trigger risk-based policies like requiring password reset or MFA. However, it does not automatically add users to groups based on risk level. Group membership is typically managed manually or through dynamic groups based on user attributes, not risk signals. Question number 67. Microsoft Entra ID identity protection can add users to groups based on the user's risk level. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, no. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Entra ID identity protection is used to detect and respond to risky sign-ins and user risk levels, for example, leaked credentials and unusual behavior. It can detect risky users and sign-ins, trigger risk-based policies like requiring password reset or MFA. However, it does not automatically add users to groups based on risk level. Group membership is typically managed manually or through dynamic groups based on user attributes, not risk signals. Question number 68. Microsoft Entra ID identity protection can detect whether user credentials were leaked to public. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. So Microsoft Entra ID identity protection can indeed detect whether user credentials were leaked to public. Microsoft Entra ID identity protection can detect if user credentials have been compromised or leaked publicly. It uses threat intelligence signals, for example, dark web leaked data, risk detection algorithms, and Microsoft security telemetry. This helps identify leaked credentials and trigger risk-based policies like requiring password changes or MFA. Question number 69, Microsoft Entra ID identity protection can be used to invoke multi-factor authentication based on a user's risk level. Again, the options are option A, yes, and option B, no, and the correct option is option A, yes. So, Microsoft Entra ID identity protection can enforce risk-based conditional access policies which can detect user sign-in risk level that is low, medium, or high. It can trigger actions based on that risk, and it can enforce the user to require multi-factor authentication when risk is detected. So, if a user is considered risky, MFA can be automatically enforced as a remediation control. Question number 70, which feature provides the extended detection and response capability of Azure Sentinel? Option A, integration with the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. Option B, support for threat hunting. Option C, integration with Microsoft 365 Defender. And option D, support for Azure Monitor workbooks. And the explanation, the correct option is option C, integration with Microsoft 365 Defender. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Sentinel, the extended detection and response capability is enabled through integration with Microsoft 365 Defender. This integration allows Sentinel to correlate signals from endpoints, identities, email, and cloud applications, provide unified incident views across Microsoft security products, and enhance automated detection and response capabilities. So, why the other options are incorrect? Compliance Center is compliance management, not threat detection. Threat hunting is used for analysis capability, not XDR integration source. And Azure Monitor Works is visualization dashboards, not XDR functionality. Question number 71, which Microsoft Entra ID feature can you use to provide just-in-time or JIT access to manage Azure resources? And the options are option A, conditional access policies, option B, Microsoft Entra ID protection, option C, Microsoft Entra privileged identity management, and option D, option D, authentication method policies. And the correct option is option C, Microsoft Entra privileged identity management or PIM. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Entra ID privileged identity management PIM provides just-in-time access to Azure resources and administrative roles. It allows temporary activation of privileged roles, time-bound access, for example 1 or 2 hours, approval and MFA requirements before activation, and reduce risk by avoiding permanent admin access. And why the other options are incorrect? So, conditional access policies control sign-in conditions, not role activation. Identity protection detects risky users and sign-ins. And authentication methods policies control MFA methods, not JIT access. So, PIM is the correct feature for just-in-time privileged access. Question number 72, in software as a service, that is SaaS, applying service packs to applications is the responsibility of the organization. So, by organization we mean the customer. So the question is asking about whether this is the responsibility of the customer or the cloud provider. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is no. So remember, in SaaS, software as a service, the management, installation, patch management, as well as applying services, security packs, all are the responsibilities of the cloud provider. The customer only has the responsibility for users and data. So in software as a service model within Microsoft Azure, the cloud provider, that is Microsoft, is responsible for managing and maintaining the application, including applying service packs and updates, patching and upgrade, infrastructure and application maintenance. The customer is only responsible for data and user access and configuration. So organizations do not manage service packs in software as a service. Question number 73, in infrastructure as a service, that is IaaS, managing the physical network is the responsibility of the cloud provider, and the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. So remember that in shared responsibility model, the managing, installation, configuration, security of all the physical infrastructure, including the physical network, the physical servers, bare metal servers, network devices, cooling, HVAC, all are the primary responsibility of the cloud provider. So the option, the correct option is, of course, yes. So in the infrastructure as a service model in Microsoft Azure, the cloud provider, that is Microsoft, is responsible for underlying infrastructure, including physical servers, storage system, physical networking equipment, and other data center facilities such as physical building, cooling, and you can say that CCTV cameras, all things related to physical security and physical management are the responsibility of cloud provider. The customer is responsible for managing operating system, application, data, and network configuration. So these are, we are talking about infrastructure as a service. If it was in our previous example, software as a service, then the operating system is also the responsibility of the cloud provider. So physical network management remains the provider's responsibility. Question number 74. In all Azure cloud deployment types, managing the security of information and the data is the responsibility of the organization. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is yes. So as we studied in the previous example, that the management, configuration, and security of the physical infrastructure is the primary responsibility of the cloud provider in all type of cloud deployment model. Similarly, the security of information and data is the primary responsibility of the organization or the customer in all type of the cloud deployment model. So in all deployment models of Microsoft Azure, the shared responsibility model applies across SaaS, PaaS, and infrastructure as a service IaaS. The cloud provider secures the underlying infrastructure, and the customer or the organization is always responsible for their data and information security. So this includes data classification and protection, access control permissions, encryption decision in many cases, and compliance of stored data. So data and information security always remain the organization's responsibility. Question number 75. Applications registered in Microsoft Entra ID are associated automatically to a blank space. Option A, guest account. Option B, managed identity. Option C, service principal. And option D, user account. And the correct option is option C, service principal. So in Microsoft Entra ID, when an application is registered, it is automatically associated with a service principal. So the application object represents the application definition in the directory where it is registered. The service principal represents the application's identity in a specific tenant and is used for authentication and authorization. So why the other options are incorrect? So guest account is external user identity and not for applications. Managed identity is a special type of identity for Azure resources, not automatically created for application registration. Then user account represents a human user, not an application identity. Question number 76. Blank space is a cloud native security information and event management, that is SIEM, and security orchestration and automated response, that is SOAR solution used to provide a single solution for alert detection, threat visibility, proactive hunting, and threat response. And the options are option A, Azure Advisor, option B, Azure Bastion, option C, Azure Monitor, and option D, Azure Sentinel. And the correct option is, so the SIEM and SOAR solution of Azure is Azure Sentinel. Microsoft Azure Sentinel. Now Microsoft Sentinel is a cloud native SIEM and SOAR solution used for collecting and analyzing security data across enterprise, detecting and investigating alerts, enabling proactive threat hunting, and automating incident response using playbooks. So why the other options are incorrect? So Azure Advisor provides best practice recommendations, not security event management. Azure Bastion secures RDP and SSH access to virtual machines. And Azure Monitor collects and analyzes telemetry but is not a full SIEM and SOAR solution. Question number 77. Blank space. A file makes the data in the file readable and usable to viewers that have the appropriate key. Option A, archiving. Option B, compressing. Option C, deduplicating. And option D, encrypting. And the correct option is option D, encrypting. So encrypting a file makes the data in the file readable and usable to viewers that have the appropriate key, that is the decryption key. So Microsoft Azure encryption transforms data in a file so that it becomes unreadable without the correct key. When the appropriate key is used, the data is decrypted back into readable and usable form. Encryption protects data confidentiality and it requires a key to make the data readable again. So the opposite of encryption is then decryption. So why the other options are incorrect? So archiving stores files for long-term retention, compressing reduces file size not security related, and deduplicating removes duplicate data to save storage space. Question number 78. Sensitivity labels can be used to encrypt documents. Option A, yes, and option B, no, and the correct option is option A, yes. So in Microsoft Purview information protection, sensitivity labels can be configured to apply encryption to documents and emails. They can encrypt files and emails, restrict access to specific users or groups, apply protection automatically or manually, and help ensure only authorized users can view sensitive data. So encryption is a key capability of sensitivity labels. Question number 79. Sensitivity labels can add headers and footers to documents. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no, and the correct option is option A, yes. So in Microsoft Purview information protection, sensitivity labels can apply visual markings to documents such as headers, footers, and watermarks. So these markings help users easily identify the sensitivity levels of content that is confidentiality and highly confidential. Question number 80. Sensitivity labels can apply watermarks to emails. Option A, yes, and option B, no, and the correct option is yes. So sensitivity label can indeed apply watermarks to emails. So in Microsoft Purview, information protection sensitivity labels can apply watermark to documents like Word, Excel, and PDF, but they do not apply watermarks to emails. So for email, sensitivity labels can encrypt messages, apply headers and footer in supported clients, and restrict forwarding or access. But watermarks are not supported in email content, so this statement is false. So here we have selected the incorrect option. So the correct option is no. Sensitivity labels cannot apply watermarks to emails. They can apply watermarks to files or documents like Word, Excel, and PDF. Question number 81. Blank Space is a cloud-based solution that leverages on-premises Active Directory signals to identify, detect, and investigate advanced threats. Option A, Microsoft Cloud App Security. Option B, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. Option C, Microsoft Defender for Identity. And option D, Microsoft Defender for Office. And the correct option is option C, Microsoft Defender for Identity. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Defender for Identity is a cloud-based security solution that uses on-premises Active Directory signals to detect advanced identity-based threats, identify suspicious user behavior, investigate attacks targeting domain controllers and Active Directory infrastructure, and provide alerts for credential theft, lateral movement, and reconnaissance. So why the other options are incorrect? So Microsoft Cloud App Security focuses on software as a service app security, not AD signals. Microsoft Defender for Endpoints protects devices and endpoints, not AD identity signals. And Microsoft Defender for Office 365 protects emails and collaboration services. Question number 82. Azure policy supports automatic remediation. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is yes. So Azure policy indeed supports automatic remediation. So in Microsoft Azure, Azure policy supports automatic remediation through remediation tasks. It can detect non-compliant resources, automatically apply fixes for certain policies, for example, deploy missing configurations, apply tags and enforce settings, and continuously enforce governance across subscriptions. So Azure policy is not only for auditing but also for enforcing and fixing compliance issues automatically. Question number 83. Azure policy can be used to ensure that new resources adhere to corporate standards. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Azure, Azure policy is used to enforce organizational standards and compliance rules. It can evaluate new resources during deployment, prevent non-compliant resources from being created, that is deny effect, and audit or modify resources to match corporate standards. So it ensures that new resources comply with defined policies. Question number 84. Compliance evaluation in Azure policy occurs only when a target resource is created or modified. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, no. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Azure, Azure policy performs compliance evaluation not only when a resource is created or modified, but also on a regular compliance evaluation cycle when policies are newly assigned or updated during on-demand compliance scans. So compliance is continuously assessed, not only at creation or modification time. Question number 85. Federation is used to establish blank space between organizations. Option A, multi-factor authentication MFA. Option B, a trust relationship. Option C, user account synchronization. And option D, a VPN connection. And the correct option is option B, a trust relationship. So, federation is used to establish trust relationship between organizations, and the explanation is, so Microsoft Entra ID Federation is used to establish a trust relationship between two organizations so that users can access resources across domains without needing separate credentials. So, it enables single sign-on or SSO across organizations, trust between identity providers, and secure cross-organization authentication. And why the other options are incorrect? So, MFA adds verification step, not federation. User account synchronization is done via directory synchronization tools, not federation. And VPN connection is for network connectivity unrelated to identity trust. Question number 86. Blank space provides network address translation NAT services. Option A, Azure Basin. Option B, Azure Firewall. And option C, Network Security Group or NSG. And the correct option is option B, Azure Firewall. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Azure Firewall provides network address translation NAT capabilities, including source net for outbound internet traffic and destination net for inbound traffic mapping, and centralized network traffic control and filtering. So why the other options are incorrect? So Azure Basin is secure RDP, is used for secure RDP. RDP is remote desktop protocol, and SSH access, not NAT. Network Security Group NSG filters traffic but does not perform NAT. So Azure Firewall is the correct service for NAT functionality. Question number 87. Blank space provides secure and seamless remote desktop connectivity to Azure virtual machines. Option A, Azure Basin. Option B, Azure Firewall. And option C, Network Security Group. And the correct option is option A, Azure Basin. So Microsoft Azure Basin provides secure and seamless remote desktop protocol and SSH access to Azure virtual machines directly to the Azure portal. It eliminates the need for public IP address on VMs and provides secure browser-based RDP SSH connectivity and reduces exposure to external threats. So why the other options are incorrect? So Azure Firewall is network traffic filtering and security, not remote desktop access. And NSG, Network Security Group, controls traffic flow but does not provide RDP or SSH connectivity. Question number 88. Blank space provides traffic filtering that can be applied to specific network interface on a virtual network. Option A, Azure Basin. Option B, Azure Firewall. And option C, Network Security Group, NSG. And the correct option is, so NSG, Network Security Group, provides traffic filtering that can be applied to specific network interfaces or a virtual network. So Microsoft Azure Network Security Group or NSG provide traffic filtering at the network interface and subnet level in a virtual network. They allows you to allow or deny inbound and outbound traffic, filter based on IP address, port and protocol, and apply rules directly to network interface cards or subnets. So why the other options are incorrect? So Azure Basin provides secure RDP and SSH access, not traffic filtering. Azure Firewall is a centralized network firewall and not applied directly to network interface cards like NSG. So NSGs are the correct service for interface level traffic filtering. Question number 89. Conditional access policies can use the device state as a signal. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. So, conditional access policies can indeed use the device status as a signal. So, in Microsoft Entra ID, conditional access policies can use device state as a signal to make access decisions. Device state signals include whether a device is compliant via Intune, whether a device is hybrid Azure AD giant or Microsoft Entra giant, and whether the device is marked as healthy or trusted. So these signals help enforce policies like allowing access only from compliant or managed devices. Question number 90, conditional access policies can trigger multi-factor authentication MFA if user attempt to access a specific application. The options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. So in Microsoft Entra ID, conditional access policies can enforce multi-factor authentication based on conditions such as specific application being accessed, user location or device status, and sign-in risk level. So if a user tries to access a particular app, the policy can require MFA before granting access. Question number 91. Microsoft Entra ID protection can add users to groups based on the user's risk level. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, no. So Microsoft Entra ID identity protection focuses on detecting and responding to risky sign-ins and user risk level. It can detect risky users and sign-ins, trigger risk-based policies like requiring multi-factor authentication or password reset via conditional access. However, it cannot automatically add users to group based on risk level. Group assignment is handled separately through dynamic group based on attributes, not risk signals. Question number 92. Microsoft Entra ID protection can detect whether user credentials were leaked to the public, and the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. So I think we already went through this question. Let's go to the question number 93. Microsoft Entra ID protection can be used to invoke multi-factor authentication based on the user's risk level. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. So Microsoft Entra Identity Protection works with conditional access to enforce risk-based policies. It can evaluate user sign-in risk levels, that is low, medium, high, trigger action based on risk, and require multi-factor authentication where risk is detected. So MFA can be automatically invoked when a user's risk level meets policy condition. Question number 94. Security defaults require a Microsoft Entra ID premium license. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, no. So Microsoft Entra ID security defaults are a free baseline security feature and do not require Microsoft Entra ID premium licenses. They are designed to enable basic security protections for all tenants, require MFA for administrators and users, and block legacy authentication. So they are available without premium licensing. Question number 95. Security defaults can be enabled for a single Microsoft Entra ID user. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, no. So security defaults cannot be enabled for a single Microsoft Entra ID user. Microsoft Entra ID security defaults are enabled at the tenant level, not for individual users. So when enabled, they apply to the entire directory. You cannot selectively enable them for a single user. and they enforce baseline security like MFA and blocking legacy authorization across all users. So they cannot be configured per user. Question number 96. When security defaults are enabled, all administrators must use multi-factor authentication MFA. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. So in Microsoft Entra ID, when security defaults are enabled, all administrator accounts are required to use multi-factor authentication MFA. MFA is enforced to protect high privilege accounts from compromise. It is part of the baseline security protections applied tenant-wise. So administrators must use MFA when security defaults are turned on. Question number 97. What should you use to ensure that the members of a Microsoft Entra ID group use multi-factor authentication MFA when they sign in? Option A, Microsoft Entra ID identity protection. Option B, a conditional access policy. Option C, Azure role-based access control, that is Azure RBAC. And option D, Microsoft Entra ID Privileged Identity Management or PIM. And the correct option is option B, a conditional access policy. So Microsoft Entra ID conditional access policies are used to enforce multi-factor authentication for specific users or group. You can target a specific Microsoft Entra ID group, require multi-factor authentication during sign-in, and apply conditions like location, device, or application. So why the other options are incorrect? So identity protection uses risk-based signals, not group-based enforcement. Azure RBAC controls Azure resource access, not sign-in MFA. And PIM provides just-in-time role activation, not general MFA enforcement for group sign-in. So conditional access is the correct solution. Question number 98. Microsoft Defender for Cloud can detect vulnerabilities and threats for Azure storage. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. So Microsoft Defender for Cloud includes Defender for Storage, which helps protect Microsoft Azure storage accounts. It can detect malware in blobs, identify suspicious access patterns, flag potential data exfiltration, and provide vulnerability and threat alerts. So it does support detection for vulnerabilities and threats for Azure storage. Question number 99. Microsoft Entra conditional access policies can enforce authentication from approved client applications. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. So in Microsoft Entra ID, conditional access policies can enforce controls based on client application used for sign-ins. This includes requiring access only from approved client applications, blocking legacy authentication clients, and allowing access only from compliant or modern authentication apps. So organizations can restrict authentication to approved application using conditional access. And question number 100, blank space provides benchmark recommendation and guidance for protecting Azure services. Option A, Azure Application Insights. Option B, Azure Network Watcher. Option C, Log Analytics Workspaces. And option D, Security Baselines for Azure. And the correct option is option D, Security Baselines for Azure. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Azure, Security Baselines for Azure provide Microsoft recommended security best practices and benchmark guidance for Azure services. They help organizations implement secure configurations, align with industry security standards, improve their overall security posture, and follow Microsoft recommended security controls. So why other options are incorrect? So Azure Application Insight monitors application performance and availability. Azure Network Watcher provides network monitoring and diagnostics, and log analytics workspaces store and analyze log data. So security baseline for Azure is the correct answer. So that's all for this part 2 of SC-900 practice questions and answers. I will soon upload the part 3 that will also contain further 50 practice questions and answers. So together with all these 150 questions, I am sure and I am confident that if you go through all these questions and learn the concept, you will be able to pass the exam. And together with these questions, I also recommend to go through my short course on the SC-900, which is about 1 hour and something length course, and it goes through all the exam objective of official Microsoft Azure SC-900 certification. And by going through this course, you will be able to learn the required objective and the required concepts for passing the certification exam, as well as learning the concepts for your professional and on-site job requirements. So thank you and see you in the next video. So hello and welcome to the part 3 of the SC-900 exam questions and answer. And let's get started with the questions. So question number 101, which two Azure resources can a network security group, that is NSG, be associated with? And the options are option A, network interface, option B, Azure App Service Web App, option C, virtual network, option D, virtual network subnet, and option D, resource group. And the correct options are, so we have to select two options, and the first correct option is option A, network interface, and option D, virtual network subnet. So NSG can be attached with the network interface and virtual network subnet. So in Microsoft Azure, a network security group or NSG can be associated with a subnet within a virtual network and a network interface card NIC attached to a virtual machine. This allows NSG rules to filter inbound and outbound traffic at either the subnet level or the individual VM network interface level. So why the other options are incorrect? So Azure Web Service Web App NSGs cannot be directly attached to application services. Virtual networks, so NSG are associated with subnets within a virtual network, not the virtual network itself. And resource groups, so resource groups are management containers and cannot have NSGs associated with them. Question number 102, Microsoft Entra Connect can be used to implement hybrid identity, and the options are option A, yes, and option B, no, and the correct option is option A, yes. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Entra Connect is specifically designed to implement hybrid identity by connecting on-premises Active Directory with Microsoft Entra ID. It enables user, group, and password synchronization, pass-through authentication, that is PTA, federation with ADFS, and single sign-on SSO in hybrid environments. So therefore, Microsoft Entra Connect is commonly used to implement and manage hybrid identity solutions. Question number 103, hybrid identity requires the implementation of two Microsoft 365 tenants. And the options are again option A, yes, and option B, no, and the correct option is option B, no. So hybrid identities do not require the implementation of two Microsoft 365 tenants. So hybrid identity does not require two Microsoft 365 tenants. A hybrid identity solution typically connects an on-premises Active Directory environment and a single Microsoft Entra ID tenant. Using tools such as Microsoft Entra Connect, identities are synchronized between the on-premises directory and the cloud tenant. So hybrid identity requires one Microsoft Entra ID / Microsoft 365 tenant, not two. Question number 104, hybrid identity refers to the synchronization of Active Directory domain services, that is ADDS, and Microsoft Entra ID. And the options are again option A yes and option B no, and the correct option is option A yes. So hybrid identity refers to integrating and synchronizing identities between Active Directory domain services, that is ADDS, and Microsoft Entra ID. This allows users to use the same identity on premises and in the cloud, access resources with a consistent sign-in experience, and benefit from features like password synchronization and single sign-on, that is SSO. So therefore the statement is true. Question number 105, match the types of compliance score actions to the appropriate tasks. Blank space, use encryption to protect data at rest. And the options are option A corrective, option B detective, and option C preventative. And the correct option is preventative. So in Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager, actions are categorized based on their function. So preventative actions stop security or compliance issues before they happen. Detective actions identify issues after they occur, and corrective action fix existing issues. So using encryption to protect data at rest is a preventative control because it helps prevent unauthorized access to data before any breach occurs. Question number 106, match the types of compliance score actions to the appropriate tasks. Again, actively monitor systems to identify irregularities that might present risks. So we have to select the correct option in this blank space, and the options are again corrective, option B detective, and option C preventative. And the correct option is option B detective. So the detective controls basically actively monitor system to identify irregularities that might present risk. So in Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager, compliance actions are categorized as preventative, that is prevent issues before they occur, detective, that is identify or detect issues when they occur, and corrective, that is fix or remediate existing issues. So actively monitor systems to identify irregularities that might represent risk is a detective control because it focuses on finding suspicious or abnormal activities. Question number 107, to which type of resource can Azure Bastion provide secure access? Option A, Azure Files. Option B, Azure SQL or SQL managed instances. Option C, Azure Virtual Machines. And option D, Azure App Service. And the correct option is option C, Azure Virtual Machines. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Azure Bastion provides secure remote desktop protocol and SSH access directly to Azure Virtual Machines through the Azure portal. It eliminates the need for public IP addresses on VMs, provides browser-based secure connectivity, and works specifically with virtual machines inside a virtual network. So why the other options are incorrect? So Azure Files is a storage service not associated via Bastion. Azure SQL Managed Instances is a database service accessed via SQL tools, and Azure App Service is a web hosting platform, not VM-based access. So Azure Bastion is used for secure access to Azure virtual machines. Question number 108, what can you protect by using the information protection solution in the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center? Option A, computers from zero-day exploits. Option B, users from phishing attempts. Option C, files from malware and viruses. And option D, sensitive data from being exposed to unauthorized users. And the correct option is option D, sensitive data from being exposed to unauthorized users. So in Microsoft Purview Information Protection, part of the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center, the focus is on protecting data itself, not devices or threats. It helps to classify sensitive information that is confidential, financial, and personal data, apply encryption and access restrictions, and prevent unauthorized access or sharing of sensitive files and emails. So why the other options are incorrect? So zero-day exploits are used for endpoint protection, for example, Defender for endpoint. Phishing attempts can be done through email security, that is Defender for Office 365. And malware and viruses can be done with antivirus and endpoint security tools. So the correct focus is protecting sensitive data from unauthorized exposure. Question number 109, Microsoft Sentinel blank space use Azure Logic apps to automate and orchestrate responses to alerts. And the options are option A, analytic rules, option B, hunting queries, option C, playbooks, and option D, workbooks. And the correct option is playbook. So Microsoft Sentinel use playbooks. Microsoft Sentinel playbooks use Azure Logic apps to automate and orchestrate response to alerts. So in Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Sentinel playbooks are built on Azure Logic apps and are used to automate and orchestrate responses to security alerts. They can automatically respond to incidents, trigger actions like sending emails or isolating devices, and integrate with other security tools and workflows. So why the other options are incorrect? So analytic rules generate alerts, not automate responses. Hunting queries are used for proactive threat hunting, and workbooks are used for visualization and reporting dashboards. So playbooks are the correct answer. Question number 110, what are the three uses of Microsoft Cloud App Security? And the options are option A, discover and control the use of shadow IT. Option B, provide secure connections to Azure virtual machines. Option C, protect sensitive information hosted anywhere in the cloud. And option D, provide pass-through authentication to on-premises applications. And option E, prevent data leaks to non-compliant applications and limit access to regulated data. And the correct option is option A, discover and control the use of shadow IT. And option C, protect sensitive information hosted anywhere in the world. And option E, prevent data leaks to non-compliant applications and limit access to regulated data. And the explanation is, so Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, formerly Microsoft Cloud App Security, is a cloud access security broker that is CASB that helps organizations discover shadow IT by identifying unsanctioned cloud applications, protect sensitive data across SaaS applications, and enforce policies to prevent data leakage to risky or non-compliant applications. So why the other options are incorrect? So provide secure connections to Azure virtual machine is done by Azure Basin. Provide pass-through authentication to on-premises application is done by Microsoft Entra Connect and authentication services. So the correct three answers are the first, third, and the fifth options. Question number 111, which service should you use to view your Azure Secure Score? And the options are option A, alerts, option B, application insights, option C, policy, option D, Microsoft Entra Connect Health, option E, Security Center, that is Microsoft Defender for Cloud, option F, advisor, and option G, monitor. And the correct option is option E, Security Center on Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So in Microsoft Defender for Cloud, formerly known as Azure Security Center, you can view your secure score. So it provides overall security posture for your Azure environment, recommendations to improve security, and secure score breakdown by resource and subscription. And why the other options are incorrect? So alert shows security alerts, not secure score. Application insights are application performance monitoring. Policies are governance compliance enforcement, not score view. Entra Connect Health is monitoring identity synchronization, sync health. Advisor is used for best practice recommendation, not secure score. And monitor gives telemetry and logs, not security score. Question number 112, what can you use to provide threat detection for Azure SQL managed instance? Option A, Microsoft Secure Score. Option B, Application Security Groups. Option C, Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And option D, Azure Basin. And the correct option is option C, Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So in Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Defender for Cloud provides threat detection and advanced security protection for resources including Azure SQL managed instance. It can detect suspicious database activities, identify potential SQL injection attacks, provide vulnerability assessments, and offer security alerts and recommendations. Question number 113, blank space can use conditional access policies to control sessions in real time. And the options are option A, Microsoft Entra ID Privileged Identity Management, PIM. Option B, Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Option C, Microsoft Sentinel. And option D, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. And the correct option is option D, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. So Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps uses conditional access policies to enforce real-time session control. It can monitor user sessions in SaaS applications, apply conditional access app control, block downloads or uploads in real time, requires step-up authentication like MFA during sessions, and restrict actions based on risk or compliance policies. So why the other options are incorrect? So the options Microsoft Entra ID Privileged Identity Management or PIM basically manages just-in-time admin access, not session control. Microsoft Defender for Cloud is cloud security posture management, not real-time session control. And Microsoft Sentinel is SIEM and SOAR for threat detection and response, not session enforcement. So the correct answer is Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. Question number 114, Compliance Manager can be directly accessed from the blank space. Option A, Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Option B, Microsoft 365 Defender Portal. And option C, Microsoft 365 Purview. And the explanation is option C, Microsoft 365 Purview. So Compliance Manager can be directly accessed from Microsoft 365 Purview. Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager is accessed directly from Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal, that is Microsoft 365 Purview. It provides compliance score tracking, regulatory compliance templates, and assessment and improvement actions. So why the other options are incorrect? So Microsoft 365 Admin Center is for user and service administration, and Microsoft 365 Defender Portal is for security operations and threat management. So Compliance Manager is part of Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal. Question number 115, in a core e-discovery workflow, what should you do before you can search for content? Option A, create an e-discovery hold. Option B, run express analysis. Option C, configure attorney client privilege detection. And option D, export and download results. And the correct option is option A, create an e-discovery hold. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Purview core e-discovery workflow, you typically create an e-discovery case first and then apply a hold before reaching or preserving content. So an e-discovery hold preserves relevant data such as emails, files, and chats, prevents content from being modified or deleted, ensures data is available for legal investigation. So why the other options are incorrect? So run express analysis is used after data is collected, not before search. Configure attorney client privilege detection is optional review step, not required before search. And export and download results happen at the end of the workflow. So the correct first required step before searching is creating an e-discovery hold. Question number 116, from the Microsoft 365 Security Center, you can view how your Microsoft Secure score compares to the score of organizations like yours. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. So yes, from the Microsoft 365 Security Center, you can indeed view how your Microsoft Secure score compares to the scores of organizations like yours. So in Microsoft 365 Security Center, that is Microsoft Defender Portal, the Secure Score feature allows you to view your organization's security posture, compare your score with peer organizations of similar size and industry, and track improvements over time and follow the recommended security actions. So you can indeed compare your secure score with similar organizations. Question number 117, Microsoft Secure Score in Microsoft 365 Security Center gives you points if you address the improvement action by using a third-party application or software. And the options are option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. So in Microsoft Secure Score, in the Microsoft 365 Security Defender Portal, improvements actions can be completed using Microsoft native tools and third-party application or services as long as they meet the required security outcome. If the security control is implemented successfully, regardless of the tool used, Secure Score can still be improved and points awarded. Question number 118, which Microsoft 365 features can you use to restrict users from sending email messages that contain list of customers and their associated credit card numbers? Option A, retention policies. Option B, data loss prevention, DLP policies. Option C, conditional access policies. And option D, information barriers. And the correct option is option B, data loss prevention, DLP policies. So in Microsoft Purview, data loss prevention, that is DLP policies, are used to detect and prevent the sharing of sensitive information such as credit card numbers, personal identifiable information, that is PII, and customer data lists. So they can block emails from being sent, warn users with policy tips, and restrict or override sharing actions in Outlook and other Microsoft 365 applications. Question number 119. Which Microsoft Entra ID feature can you use to evaluate group membership and automatically remove users that no longer require membership in a group? Option A, access reviews. Option B, managed identities. Option C, conditional access policies. And option D, Microsoft Entra ID protection. And the correct option is option A, access reviews. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Entra ID, access reviews allow organizations to periodically evaluate group membership and automatically remove users who no longer need access. They can review user access in groups, applications, and roles, require owners or reviewers to confirm access, automatically remove users who are no longer approved, and help enforce least privilege and compliance. So why the other options are incorrect? So managed identities are used for service authentication, not group membership. Conditional access policies control sign-in conditions, not group membership. And identity protection detects risky users, not manages group membership. So access review is the correct feature. Question number 120. Which Microsoft portal provides information about how Microsoft Cloud services comply with regulatory standards such as International Organization for Standardization ISO? And the options are option A, Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. Option B, Azure Cost Management plus Billing. Option C, Microsoft Service Trust Portal. And option D, Microsoft Entra ID Admin Center. And the correct option is option C, Microsoft Service Trust Portal. So Microsoft Service Trust Portal is the dedicated portal that provides detailed information about how Microsoft Cloud services comply with regulatory standards such as ISO, that is International Organization for Standardization, GDPR, SOC reports, and other global compliance framework. So it includes audit reports, compliance documentation, and security practices. So why the other options are incorrect? So Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center is used for device management. Azure Cost Management plus Billing gives us cost and subscription management, and Microsoft Entra ID Admin Center is used for identity and access management. So the Service Trust Portal is the correct option. Question number 121. What can you use to provision Azure resources across multiple subscriptions in a consistent manner? Option A, Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Option B, Azure Blueprints. Option C, Microsoft Sentinel. And option D, Azure Policy. And the correct option is option B, Azure Blueprints. So in Microsoft Azure, Azure Blueprints are used to consistently deploy and govern Azure resources across multiple subscriptions. They allow you to package resource templates, policies, and role assignments, deploy environments in a repeatable and standardized way, and ensure compliance across subscriptions. So why the other options are incorrect? So Microsoft Defender for Cloud is security posture management. Microsoft Sentinel is SIEM/SOAR security monitoring. And Azure Policy enforces rules but does not provision full environments. So Azure Blueprints is the correct choice. Question number 122. When you enable security defaults in Microsoft Entra ID, blank space will be enabled for all Microsoft Entra ID users. Option A, Microsoft Entra ID protection. Option B, Microsoft Entra privileged identity management. And option C, multi-factor authentication. And the correct option is option C, multi-factor authentication. So in Microsoft Entra ID, enabling security defaults automatically enforces multi-factor authentication (MFA) for all users in the tenant. It requires MFA for all users, especially admins and high-risk sign-ins, blocks legacy authentication, and applies baseline security protection across the organization. So why the other options are incorrect? So Microsoft Entra ID protection is a risk detection feature not enabled by security default. Microsoft Entra Privileged Identity Management (PIM) is just-in-time role management, not part of security default. So MFA is the correct option. Question number 1 to 3. Blank Space provides best practices from Microsoft employees, partners, and customers, including tools and guidance to assist in an Azure deployment. Option A, Azure Blueprints. Option B, Azure Policy. Option C, the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure. And option D, a resource log. And the correct option is option C, the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Azure, the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework (CF) provides comprehensive best practices, guidance, tools, and methodologies from Microsoft partners and customers to help organizations successfully plan and implement Azure deployments. It includes strategy and planning guidance, architecture best practices, governance and management recommendations, and deployment and migration tools. So why the other options are incorrect? So Azure Blueprints are used to deploy and enforce environments, not broad guidance framework. Azure Policy enforces compliance rules, and resource log prevents accidental deletion or modification of resources. So the correct answer is Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure. Question number 1 to 4. You can manage Microsoft Intune by using the option A, Microsoft Entra ID Admin Center, option B, Microsoft 365 Compliance Center, option C, Microsoft 365 Defender Portal, and option D, Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. And the correct option is option D. So you can manage Microsoft Intune by using the Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. So Microsoft Intune is managed through the Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center, which is now part of the Intune Endpoint Manager portal. It is used to manage devices such as Windows, Android, iOS, and macOS, deploy applications and configure policies, and enforce security and compliance policies. So why the other options are incorrect? So Microsoft Entra ID Admin Center is for identity management. Microsoft 365 Compliance Center is for data governance and compliance, and Microsoft 365 Defender Portal is for security operations and threat management. So Intune is managed via Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. Question number 1 to 5. Verify explicitly is one of the guiding principles of Zero Trust. Option A, yes, and option B, no, and the correct option is yes. So, in Microsoft Azure and modern security frameworks like Zero Trust, verify explicitly is one of the core guiding principles. Zero Trust is based on 3 principles. Number 1, verify explicitly, which is always authenticate and authorize based on all available data, that is identity, location, device health, and risk level. Number 2, least privilege access, that is grant minimal required access. And number 3, assume breach, that is always operate as if a breach has already occurred. So verify explicitly is indeed a fundamental Zero Trust principle. Question number 1 to 6. Assume breach is one of the guiding principles of Zero Trust. So you already know the answer. Options are yes and no, and the correct option is option A, yes. So we already went through this explanation in the previous question. You can pause and go through it again if you want. Question number 1 to 7. In zero trust security model assumes that a firewall secures the internal network from external threats. Option A yes and option B no, and the correct option is of course no. Microsoft Azure Zero Trust Security Model, the assumption that a firewall alone secures the internal network is incorrect. Zero Trust is based on the idea that no network that is internal or external is automatically trusted. Security is enforced through continuous verification of identity, device, and context, and access is granted based on least privilege and risk signals. So protection does not rely on a perimeter firewall as the primary trust boundary. Question number 1 to 8. Blank space is the process of identifying whether a signed in user can access a specific resource. And the options are option A authentication, option B authorization, option C federation, and option D single sign-on. And the correct option is option B authorization. So option A is the first step during which the user is authenticated, and after authentication the user is then authorized to access specific resource. Microsoft Entra ID authorization is the process of determining whether an authenticated user has permission to access a specific resource. So authentication verifying who the user is. Authorization determines what the user can access. Federation is the trust relationship between identity providers. And SSO allows one login for multiple applications. So checking access rights to a resource is authorization. Question number 1 to 9. Which three statements accurately describe the guiding principles of zero trust? And the options are option A, define the perimeter by physical locations. Option B, use identity as the primary security boundary. Option C, always verify the permissions of a user explicitly. Option D, always assume that the user system can be breached. And option E, use the network as the primary security boundary. And the correct options are, so we have to choose three statements. So number 1 is option B, use identity as the primary security boundary. Number 2 is option C, always verify the permissions of a user explicitly. And number 3 is option D, always assume that a user system can be breached. So in Microsoft Azure Zero Trust Security Model, the core principles are, so we already went through these, that is verify explicitly, least privilege access, and assume breach. So the incorrect options are define the perimeter by physical location. So this is traditional security model, not zero trust. And use the network as the primary security boundary. So zero trust moves away from the network-based trust. So the correct three statements align with identity-based security, continuous verification, and assume breach principles. Question number 130. A higher Microsoft Secure score means lower identified risk level in the Microsoft 365 tenant. Option A yes and option B no, and the correct option is option A yes. So in Microsoft Defender for Cloud, including Microsoft Secure Score in the security portal, a higher secure score indicates that more security recommendations have been implemented, which generally means better security posture, fewer unaddressed vulnerabilities, and lower overall identified risk level. So a higher score reflects improved security and reduced risk in the Microsoft 365 tenant. Question number 131. Microsoft Secure Score measures progress in completing actions based on controls that include key regulations and standards for data protection and governance. Option A yes and option B no, and the correct option is option B no. So in Microsoft Defender for Cloud, that is Microsoft Secure Score in the security portal, Secure Score is based on recommended security controls that align with the industry best practices and standards. It measures security posture improvement over time provides actions mapped to security controls, includes guidance aligned with regulatory and compliance framework for data protection and governance. So it helps track progress against security and compliance related controls. Question number 132. In a hybrid identity model, what can you use to sync identities between Active Directory Domain Services, that is ADDS, and Microsoft Entra ID? And the options are option A, Active Directory Federation Services, that is ADFS, option B, Microsoft Sentinel, option C, Microsoft Entra Connect, and option D, Microsoft Entra Privileged Identity Management, that is PIM. And the correct option is option C, Microsoft Entra Connect. So Microsoft Entra Connect is used in a hybrid identity model to synchronize identities between on-premises Active Directory Domain Services, that is ADDS, and Microsoft Entra ID. It enables user and group synchronization, password hash sync or pass-through authentication, and single sign-on in hybrid environments. So why the other options are incorrect? Active Directory Federation Services, that is ADFS, provides federation-based authentication, not primary sync tool. Microsoft Sentinel is security monitoring and SIEM tool, and Microsoft Entra Privileged Identity Management manages privileged access, not identity synchronization. Question number 133. With Windows Hello for Business, a user's biometric data used for authentication, options are option A, is stored on an external device, option B, is stored on local device only, option C, is stored in Microsoft Entra ID, and option D, is replicated to all the devices designated by the user. And the correct option is option B, is stored on a local device only. So in Microsoft Entra ID, Windows Hello for Business uses biometric authentication, that is fingerprint and facial recognition, that is securely stored only on the user's local device. Key points are that biometric data never leaves the device. It is stored in hardware-backed security, that is TPM, and it is not stored in the cloud or synced to other devices. So why the other options are incorrect? External device is not used for biometric storage. Microsoft Entra ID stores credentials and keys, not biometric data, and of course replicated to other devices. It is not supported for security reasons, so biometric data remains local to the device only. Question number 134. Microsoft Defender for Identity can identify advanced threats from blank space signals. Option A, Microsoft Entra ID, option B, Microsoft Entra Connect, and option C, on-premises Active Directory Domain Services, that is ADDS. And the correct option is option C, on-premises Active Directory Domain Services, that is ADDS. So Microsoft Defender for Identity is designed to detect advanced threats by analyzing signals from on-premises Active Directory Domain Services, that is ADDS. It monitors domain controller activities, user authentication patterns, lateral movements within on-prem environments, and credential theft and suspicious behavior. So why the other options are incorrect? So Microsoft Entra ID is cloud identity signals. Cloud identity signals are used by identity protection, not Defender for Identity. And Microsoft Entra Connect is a synchronization tool, not a signal resource for threat detection. So Defender for Identity focuses on on-prem ADDS signals. Question number 135. Which three authentication methods does Windows Hello for Business support? Option A, fingerprint, option B, facial recognition, option C, PIN, option D, email verification, and option E, security question. And the correct options are, so we have to choose three options. Option A, fingerprint, option B, facial recognition, and option C, PIN. So in Microsoft Entra ID, Windows Hello for Business supports modern passwordless authentication methods such as biometric, that is fingerprint and facial recognition, PIN, which is device-bound secure PIN, not a traditional password. So those tools are tied to device and protected by the hardware security, that is TPM. So why the other options are incorrect? So email verification is used in account recovery, not Windows Hello authentication. Security question is legacy authentication method, not part of Windows Hello for Business. So the correct three methods are fingerprint, facial recognition, and PIN. Question number 136. You have an Azure subscription. You need to implement approval-based time-bound role activation. What should you use? Option A, Windows Hello for Business. Option B, Microsoft Entra ID Identity Protection. Option C, Access Reviews in Microsoft Entra ID. And option D, Microsoft Entra ID Privileged Identity Management, PIM. And the correct option is option D, Microsoft Entra ID Privileged Identity Management. So Microsoft Entra ID PIM or Privileged Identity Management provides approval-based and time-bound, that is just-in-time role activation for Azure resources and directory roles. It allows just-in-time activation of privileged roles, approval workflows before role activation, time-limited access assignments, and access reviews and auditing of privileged roles. So why the other options are incorrect? So Windows Hello for Business is passwordless authentication method. Identity protection is risk detection and conditional access rights. And access reviews existing access, not activation control. So PIM or Privileged Identity Management is the correct feature for approval-based time-bound role activation. Question number 137. Global administrators are exempt from conditional access policies. Option A, yes, and option B, no, and the correct option is no. So global administrators are not exempt from conditional access policies. So in Microsoft Entra ID, global administrators are not automatically exempt from conditional access policies. However, they can be excluded if explicitly configured in a policy. Some baseline protections like security defaults or emergency access accounts design may require special handling. So by default, conditional access policies applies to all users unless explicitly excluded. So global administrators are not inherently exempt. Question number 138. A conditional access policy can add users to Microsoft Entra ID roles. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, no. So a conditional policy cannot add users to Microsoft Entra ID roles. So in Microsoft Entra ID, conditional access policies are used to control access to resources during sign-in, such as requiring MFA multi-factor authentication, blocking or allowing access based on conditions, and enforcing device compliance. They do not assign or manage roles in the Microsoft Entra ID. Role assignment is handled by Microsoft Entra ID role assignments, privileged identity management for time-bound roles. So conditional access cannot add users to roles. Question number 139. Conditional access policies can force the use of multi-factor authentication or MFA to access cloud applications. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option A, yes. So conditional access policy can force the use of multi-factor authentication to access cloud applications. So in Microsoft Entra ID, conditional access policy can require multi-factor authentication when users access cloud applications. They can require MFA for specific apps, for example, Microsoft 365, Azure portals, enforce MFA based on conditions like location, device, or risk level, and strengthen access security for cloud resources. So conditional access can definitely enforce MFA for cloud application access. Question number 140, when security defaults are enabled for an Microsoft Entra ID tenant, which two requirements are enforced? Option A, all users must authenticate from a registered device. Option B, administrators must always use Azure Multi-Factor Authentication MFA. Option C, Azure Multi-Factor Authentication MFA registration is required for all users. Option D, all users must authenticate by using passwordless sign-in. And option E, all users must authenticate by using Windows Hello. So we have to choose two options, and the correct options are option B, administrators must always use Azure Multi-Factor Authentication, and option C, Azure Multi-Factor Authentication registration is required for all users. So the explanation is, in Microsoft Entra ID, when security defaults are enabled, Microsoft enforces baseline security protection including mandatory MFA registration for all users, mandatory MFA for administration accounts and high-risk actions, and blocking legacy authentication methods. So why the other options are incorrect? So all users must authenticate from a registered device is not required by security defaults. All users must use passwordless sign-in. So this is optional feature not enforced. And all users must use Windows Hello is not enforced by security defaults. So multi-factor authentication registration for all users and mandatory MFA for administrators are the correct requirements. Question number 141, which type of identity is created when you register an application with Microsoft Entra ID? And the options are option A, user account, option B, user assigned managed identity, option C, system assigned managed identity, and option D, service principal. And the correct option is option D, service principal. So in Microsoft Entra ID, when you register an application, a service principal is automatically created in the tenant. So the service principal represents the application's identity in the tenant, is used for authentication and authorization, and defines what the application can access and do. So why the other options are incorrect? User account represents a human identity. User assigned managed identity is Azure resource identity created separately. And system assigned managed identity is tied to an Azure resource lifecycle, not application registration. So application registration creates a service principal. Question number 142, which three tasks can be performed by using Microsoft Entra ID identity protection? Option A, configure external access for partner organization. Option B, export risk detection to third-party utilities. Option C, automate the detection and remediation of identity-based risks. Option D, investigate risks that relate to user authentication. And option E, create and automatically assign sensitivity labels to data. So we have to choose three options. So the first correct option is option B, export risk detection to third-party utilities. Option C, automate the detection and remediation by identity-based risks. And option D, investigate risks that relate to user authentication. So in Microsoft Entra ID, identity protection helps organizations detect, investigate, and respond to identity-based risks such as leaked credentials, atypical sign-in behavior, and risky user or sign-ins. It supports risk detection and investigation dashboards, risk-based conditional access for automated remediation, and exporting risk-based data to security tools and SIEM solutions. Question number 143, when using multi-factor authentication MFA, a password is considered something you. So the password is what type of authentication factor? Basically, we have three types of authentication factors: something you know, something you have, and something you are. So the options are something you are, something you have, something you know, or something you share. And the correct option is, so the password is about the knowledge, so it is something you know. So in multi-factor authentication with Microsoft Entra ID, factors are characterized as something you know, such as password and PIN, something you have, such as phone, authenticator app, and hardware token, and something you are, which is biometric, such as fingerprint and face recognition. So a password is considered something you know. Question number 144, Windows Hello for Business can use the Microsoft Authenticator app as an authentication method. And the options are whether this statement is correct or false. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is no. So Windows Hello for Business cannot use the Microsoft Authenticator app as an authentication method. So we will explain it why. So in Microsoft Entra ID, Windows Hello for Business is a device-based passwordless authentication method that uses biometrics such as facial recognition or fingerprint and PIN that is tied to the device. So the Microsoft Authenticator app is a separate authentication method which is used for MFA prompts and passwordless sign-ins in Entra ID scenarios. So they are different authentication systems and are not used together as a Windows Hello for Business method. Question number 145, Windows Hello for Business can use a PIN code as an authentication method. So you must know by this answer by now. Options are A, yes, and B, no. And the correct option is, of course, yes. So in Microsoft Entra ID, Windows Hello for Business supports a PIN code as one of its authentication methods. So the key points are the PIN is device based. It means it works only on the registered device. It is protected by hardware security such as TPM, that is Trusted Platform Module. It is not transmitted or stored centrally like password, so it is stored on that device itself. So a PIN is a valid Windows Hello for Business authentication method. Question number 146, Windows Hello for Business authentication information syncs across all the devices registered by a user. Option A, yes, and option B, no. And the correct option is option B, no. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft Entra ID, Windows Hello for Business authentication data such as PIN and biometric is device bound. This means credentials are stored securely on a single device using TPM chip. So TPM is basically a security chip inside that specific device such as laptop. It is hardware based where the credentials such as these pins and security keys for encryption and decryption are stored. So they are not synchronized across multiple devices and each device must be individually registered and configured. So Windows Hello for Business does not sync authentication information across devices. Question number 147, an Azure resource can use a system assigned blank space to access Azure services. And the options are option A, Microsoft Entra ID joined devices, option B, managed identity, option C, service principal, and option D, user identity. And the correct option is option B, managed identity. So in Microsoft Azure, an Azure resource can use a system assigned managed identities to securely access other Azure services without needing credentials. So managed identities are automatically created and managed by Azure, are tied to the life cycle of Azure resource, and allow secure authentication to services like Key Vault, storage, etc. So why the other options are incorrect? So Microsoft Entra ID joint device is device identity, not service to service authentication. Service principal manually created application identity, not system assigned. And user identity represents a human user, not an Azure resource. So the correct answer is managed identity. Question number 148, you can use blank space in the Microsoft 365 Security Center to view an aggregation of alerts that relate to the same attack. Option A, reports. Option B, hunting. Option C, attack simulator. And option D, incidents. And the correct option is incidents. So you can use incidents in Microsoft 365 Security Center to view an aggregation of alerts that relates to the same attack. So in Microsoft 365 Defender, that is Security Center, incidents aggregate multiple related alerts into a single view representing a potential attack. They group correlated security alerts, provide a unified view of an attack chain, and help security teams investigate and respond efficiently. So why the other options are incorrect? So reports provide summaries, not grouped attack analysis. Hunting is used for proactive threat hunting with queries, and attack simulator is used for training and phishing simulators. So incidents is the correct answer. Question number 149, what should you use in Microsoft 365 Defender portal to view security trends and track the protection status of identities? Option A, attack simulator. Option B, reports. Option C, hunting. And option D, incidents. And the correct option is option B, reports. And the explanation is, so in Microsoft 365 Defender portal, reports are used to view security trends over time, track protection status of identities, devices, and applications, and analyze aggregated security data and insights. So why the other options are incorrect? So attack simulator is used for phishing and security training exercises. Hunting is used for proactive threat hunting using queries, and incident represents grouped alerts for active investigations. So reports is the correct option for viewing trends and identity protection status. And question number 150, you have a Microsoft 365 E3 subscription. You plan to audit user activity by using the unified audit log and basic audit. For how long will the audit records be retained? Option A, 15 days. Option B, 30 days. Option C, 90 days. And option D, 180 days. And the correct option is option C, 90 days. So in Microsoft 365 E3 subscription using basic audit, that is unified audit log, audit records are retained for 90 days. This allows organization to track user and admin activities, investigate security and compliance events, and meet baseline auditing requirements. So with basic audit, retention period is 90 days. So that's all for this video. I hope this has been informative and it will be of great help in your preparation for the SC-900 certification exam. So we have covered so far 150 questions and answers, and we have covered the various concepts during these questions. So for further consolidation of knowledge and for further revision, you can also click on this window that will be visible now, which is my crash course on this SC-900, where I cover all the topics related to this certification. So please like the video, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video and next certification course.